Hey everyone, how's it going? Thinkafurr here with another theory. But before we begin today's video, I want to remind you all briefly that my channel has a Twitter page where you can keep up with all the latest news and updates about my channel. All you need to do is follow me at Christafurr&Thinkafurr to keep up. Now, with that out of the way, I hope you all enjoy today's video. Ganondorf, known as the demon thief and the mortal incarnation and manifestation of hatred born from within the demon king Demise. Ganondorf is the predestined king of the Gerudo tribe, born every 100 years. We see Ganondorf's appearance in many different titles, but the one that strikes out for me the most in this video is the 5th game released in the series and also the first to have 3D graphics, Ocarina of Time. It is within this game that we see Ganondorf characterized by his olive green skin, rounded ears, yellow eyes, and gemstone amulet worn atop his forehead. Now, some of these characteristics change a little across games, and always does Ganondorf have that gemstone amulet worn, but even more interesting a point to make is the fact that the very being Ganondorf is a direct incarnation of, Demise, the king of demons, just happens to also share a scar on his forehead in the same place Ganondorf wears the gemstone. The same location we see Demise's weaker form, the imprisoned, sporting a sealing totem of which Link strikes to subdue the imprisoned. Why is this, and why is it important? Just what is the point of this reoccurrence revolving around the forehead of our antagonistic friends here? Is it mere coincidence, or perhaps something far more deeper than that? Brace yourselves for a wild and bumpy ride, thinkers, because it's time for a conspiracy theory. When we look at Ganondorf's parents, Koume and Kotake, they too wear gemstones atop their foreheads. Even when they combine to form the all-powerful being Twin Rova, a gemstone is still visibly apparent upon the forehead. Her gemstone, however, is both red and blue, signifying the perfect union of Kotake and Koume, fire and ice magic woven into their very beings, two opposing elements working as one. We also know that the Gerudo people also wear them quite commonly, and so too do the Gerudo iron knuckles. I believe that the answer to each is potentially multifaceted, but with similar reasoning behind each. Firstly, looking away from all that, let us analyze the regions of the forehead these gems are located on. Like many creative things, inspiration is often drawn from outside sources. We know that Nintendo has never been shy from making subtle gestures, nods, and references from real-world cultures and religions. It is my hypothesis that this revolving theme circling around the regions of the forehead has to do with the 7 chakra points of the body. More specifically, one chakra point in particular, the 3rd eye chakra, located in the exact same regions of the forehead as the gemstones, the sealing totem, and the scar. When researching the historical references of this chakra point, it has been observed within multiple interpretations such as Dharmic spiritual traditions, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Taoism. However, I have also in my research seen the 3rd eye chakra referred to in witchcraftian lore, also known in contemporary society as Wiccan or Wicca. With that said though, just what is the 3rd eye chakra? In Dharmic traditions, also known as yogic traditions, we see it described as the gate that leads to the inner realms and spaces of higher consciousness. In Buddhism and Hinduism, this chakra is regarded as the eye of consciousness, manifesting a central point from which enlightenment greater than one's physical sight can be achieved. In Taoism, it is viewed as one of the main energy centers of the body, and when students of Taoism train and focus upon this point, it allows them to attune themselves with the correct vibration of the universe, causing the practitioner to attain a deeper state within meditation. Collectively, this chakra symbolizes a higher state of enlightenment within different historical interpretations, but what's more interesting is that over the years its interpretation has grown to also include an attribute with evoking mental images, visions, clairvoyance, and channeling psychic energies. Within the realms of witchcraftian lore, or Wiccan, we certainly see a prominently centralized focus upon the psychic energies when they refer to the third eye. Furthermore, according to their interpretation, it also connects one deeper towards the feelings and intentions of others and oneself, and is responsible for abilities such as intuition, and most prominently, the awareness of the paranormal. Now, with the concept of the chakras and the third eye's various different interpretations fresh in your minds, let's talk about how this relates to Demise in conjunction with his imprisoned form. When Demise was resurrected at full potential, he had a huge scar atop that forehead of his. In contrast of this, when he was weakened due to his power being sealed away, we see a massive steel-like totem atop the regions of the third eye chakra point when observing his imprisoned form. Now, how this is all relevant is actually the most easiest part to answer. If the third eye is regarded as a focal point in witchcraftian lore for psychic energies and allows one to achieve higher levels of spiritual enlightenment and gain a deeper understanding of the paranormal, then I'd say that if you were to inhibit this area by directly inserting, if not, completely impaling that chakra point with what I assume is a fairly sharp metallic pole designed to seal things, then one can assume it's going to do exactly that, sealing off that chakra point, causing a disruption to the overall power of Demise right down to his very being. Mind you, if you stuck a metallic object in most people's foreheads, I think that would likely disrupt anyone's psychic energies completely, as that would result in death. But let's move on. So, with all that metaphysical stuff in hand, how do the gemstones now fit into all this? When looking at the witch sisters Koume and Kotake, we clearly see in place of their third eye is a gemstone with the color relating most with their elemental powers that they make use of against Link in the Spirit Temple boss fight. We know that they can use a variety of different magic, as Nabooru describes them both using dark magic to teleport her away and brainwash her. Now, I'll touch upon the subject of Nabooru again in a moment, but looking at the witches, there is clearly something about these gemstones that is important. Well, as it turns out, in Wicca lore and various other practices, you can use different stones and gems to affect chakra areas in different ways. The third eye chakra is no exception. It's entirely possible that the two witch sisters wear these gemstones to augment their magical abilities by enhancing their awareness or use of the psychic energies of the universe, allowing them to tap even more deeply into their powers than they otherwise would without the stones. To be honest, it's highly speculatory what kind of crystal or gemstone the witches are wearing, but from what information I could find on any blue or red stone variety relating to the third eye, I found the following gemstones to be the best fits for these elemental opposites. Lapis lazuli, described as a stone of self-mastery. It aids in accessing inner truths by stimulating the third eye. A stone most fitting for the cold, icy focus of Kotake. Kotake is the sorceress of ice. Ice is cold and complex in crystalline structure, requiring absolute skill and mastery to sculpt and shape, as well as a sharp critical mind with mastery of one's emotions to keep attention to detail. In contrasts of Kotake and her ice magic, I found the ruby most fitting for her fiery flame-wielding sister, Koume. The ruby itself is described as being able to gather and amplify energy, aiding what some would say as opening a door to spiritual knowledge, thus helping its wearer to harness a deeper concentration when using their mental energies. Furthermore, this stone reportedly can dissolve emotional congestion, healing, and balancing unbalanced levels of emotion. Perfect for someone as fiery and passionate as Koume. Koume is the sorceress of flame. Fire in itself is dualistic in nature. On the surface, it can be volatile and destructive, but when harnessed and focused, it can be helpful as a tool, warming and welcoming even. This would in turn infer that a wielder of this volatile or constructive elemental magic would require some form of control over their volatile emotions. Koume with her powerful flames requires focus, so in conjunction to this, the ruby can balance emotions, resolving any congested feelings that may overwhelm her, allowing instead for her passionate fire to flow freely as the stone aids Koume in gathering and amplifying her fire-filled energies and wield them with deeper concentration. What's important to also mention is that these stones not exclusively can protect their wearers from psychic attacks. However, what if, and I do stress a big what if, the witches, also known in their combined form, Twin Rova, used the crystals and stones to achieve the exact opposite to fulfill a darker purpose, one of psychically attacking and controlling the bodies of others, those others specifically being the Gerudo, and yes, I'm also going to go as far as to even say Ganondorf himself to serve the nefarious purposes and designs of an old and undying hatred from a familiar foe, demise. Returning to a point raised earlier about the Gerudo Iron Knuckles, these large, towering, ironclad giants are distinctly characterized for their iron bulk, heavy battle axe, fearsome and guttural voice, as well as always their adornment of gemstones typically seen atop the helmet. In a wonderfully insightful video by the Masked Nintendo Bandit, he broke down the many different iron knuckles, drawing a clear distinction between the differences of other knuckles within the Zelda franchise, as well as raising a fairly interesting idea that perhaps the Gerudo Iron Knuckles are super strong because they are not controlled by the brainwashed Gerudo, but instead used as a living host for a demon's soul to be infused within the armor itself, allowing the witches to have both a subservient and autonomous minion. A link to that video will be in the top right corner. Now moving on, the concept of a living demon-infused armor posed by the Masked Nintendo Bandit is very interesting, if not intriguing. When looking at the end of the battle with the brainwashed Nabooru, notice that the entire battle comes to an immediate halt when the helmet is knocked from Nabooru's head. Upon closer inspection of that same helmet, surprise surprise, it just so happens to also have a gem embedded on the regions of the forehead. This inferring that Nabooru was only freed after being free of the helmet and the gemstone affixed to it. I mean, it's quite literally knocked off her head and then suddenly she's freed of the brainwashing. So here's my take on this. Perhaps it's not so much a case of demonic souls with super strength possessing the armor, but rather the witches using demon-infused gemstones to exploit the third eye chakra of the host, allowing a medium for control of the host wearing the armor, which in this case is a Gerudo, thus creating a living suit with its own sense of autonomy by infusing the gemstone with the compliant soul of a demon to serve as what the witches Koume and Kotake would term a loyal minion. Now this idea is pretty wild, and the only flaw I can think of is the feats of strength performed by the Iron Knuckles to that of an average Gerudo. To this, I also say in jest the following. What is one of the key items we find in the Spirit Temple when we face the Gerudo Iron Knuckles? It's the silver gauntlets. These gauntlets are infused with the power of silver, which greatly augments the strength of anyone wearing them. Nabooru herself wanted this item to defy Ganondorf single-handedly. Now I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, and it is relevant to where I'm going with this. But what if the following is also true? Perhaps the silver and golden gauntlets aren't a unique item, but rather in limited supply, as the witches either individually or collectively as Twin Rova created these gauntlets as many times as necessary when creating Iron Knuckles from brainwashed Gerudo. This makes a great amount of sense considering that every single block you encounter across the entire game in Ocarina of Time has a Gerudo symbol on it. These blocks are incredibly heavy to move around, and having a group of people readily equipped with strength boosting items like the gauntlets to create these literal roadblocks would make sense, not just from a workplace health and safety safety perspective, but also from a practical standpoint as well. Now, this tangential stuff aside, how does this apply to Ganondorf? Well, this is actually drawing from another video I'm working on, and a link to that video will be in the top right corner when done, but for now, I'm going to raise it as a hypothetical standpoint. What if Ganondorf was born a happy and healthy, seemingly benevolent child with extraordinary magical potential, perhaps even a direct descendant born from the all-powerful twin Rova herself, only to be adopted and raised by her counterparts Koume and Kotake, and much like the Iron Knuckles, though perhaps dissimilar in approach, they would use a gemstone of sorts to manipulate Ganondorf's mind, molding and shaping Ganondorf throughout his entire life towards serving the interests of the Demon King Demise, as his foul hatred would inherently lurk deep within Ganondorf's heart. This corruptive influence, a clouding force, would serve to distract Ganondorf from his true path in life, which we do find out in Four Swords Adventures is to serve as the Gerudo's protector and leader every 100 years, inferring that many Ganondorfs have been born into the Gerudo tribe over the many years, serving multiple times in the past as their champion. From this, it's entirely plausible to argue that Twin Rova had birthed not one, but multiple Ganondorfs over the many years. As Hyrule has existed for well beyond 100 years, so too has Twin Rova, as we see her counterparts Koume and Kotake mention they are hundreds of years old in their final moments after their defeat at the hands of Link in Ocarina of Time. Now, given how destructive and powerful Twin Rova is, as well as her dark nature, it's somewhat reasonable to also suggest and conclude that she could very well be an indirect incarnation of Demise's hatred, serving as a vessel for the truly direct incarnation of his hatred, Ganondorf, and a parental guiding hand towards Demise's evil goals. It's entirely possible for Demise to have more than one incarnation at a time, serving his interests in taking over and destroying Hyrule, as well as defeating his foes Link and Zelda, as we see within Four Swords Adventures the villainous Vati existing at the same time as Ganondorf. I'd love to explore this further, but to keep this video on point, I'll have to save that tangent for another time. Amidst this complex what-if discussion, some of you may just be thinking and asking, what would Ganondorf have looked like if he had become self-aware of his parents' intentions when raising him, or if he had lived a life free from their dark influence? Well, we actually do see evidence of what could have been in Wind Waker. For those of you who don't know this, Wind Waker is a direct continuation of the adult timeline, after Link the Hero of Time defeats and seals Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm and is sent back to the child timeline. Now, this next part has spoilers for the ending of Wind Waker, so watcher be warned. In the final fight, where Ganon battles against the Hero of Wind and Princess Zelda, also known as Tetra, in a contest for the Triforce, we see that in various instances he shows signs of regret, even empathy and sympathy for all the people of Hyrule as well as his own. Speaking symbolically towards the past, he talks of a wind that would bring something other than suffering and ruin for his own people within the green fields of Hyrule, stating that he coveted that wind. When Ganondorf makes his wish upon the Triforce, he states, "Expose this land to the rays of sun once more. Let them burn forth." In one sense, this could imply that Ganondorf wished to end the flooding of Hyrule and restore it to its former glory. This, alone in itself, shows Ganondorf is capable of thoughts and motivations beyond the hatred he was cursed with by Demise. Sadly, of course, we all know that Ganondorf was also motivated with darker ulterior motives such as greed, as he states directly after making the first half of his wish upon the Triforce, "Give Hyrule to me," showing clearly that he is still greedy and selfish. Quite possibly, his lack of integrity remains as an unfortunate byproduct of the many years of his grooming and malpractice at the hands of his parents Koume and Kotake. He could not see past all the misgivings of his parents' teachings. Now, shifting this nature versus nurture debate out of the way, let's shift back to the gemstones and the Gerudo people. Prior to Link clearing the Gerudo Fortress and the Spirit Temple where he inevitably defeats Twin Rova, we see the Gerudo are very hostile towards the carpenter and his workers, as they are imprisoned and threatened. We see clearly there's a distinct change of behavior within the Gerudo tribe after the witches are defeated. One of the carpenter's workers freed by Link even states, "Without the old witches, the gang of thieves isn't all that scary." Perhaps the reasoning behind why the entire populace was hostile wasn't because Koume and Kotake enslaved an entire race with gemstones to exploit the third eye of everyone individually, but rather, instead, that the twin sorcerers enslaved the minds of the leaders and high-ranking officers, using their power and influence to change and coerce the public opinions of the population to become hostile of outsiders. It likely would have been too much work and costed too many resources to enslave an entire race. There's just too many people to do that, and it's evidently so. Not everyone in the fortress wears gemstones on their foreheads. The lower-ranked guards carrying spears have nothing adorning their foreheads save for a ponytail and a face mask. In contrast of this, the higher-ranked Gerudo thieves dual-wield curved swords and have a gemstone clearly adorning their forehead smack bang where the third eye chakra point is. Twin Rova and her counterparts Koume and Kotake, both with their evil gemstones creating a hive mind of malicious negativity, twisting and shifting the minds and thoughts of their higher-ranked officers, and in turn the lower-ranked guards and civilians with the spread of misinformation, not unlike the modern media we see today, even going as far as to create and corrupt the Gerudo's predestined protector, Ganondorf. And there it is, everyone, my incredibly long and meticulously thought out conspiracy theory about a childhood video game and a plot to take over Hyrule via two bickering old ladies and their gem of a master plan. Thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know your own thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Also, if you want to support the channel, we have some sweet merchandise in the works. Check out these awesome shirt designs. A link to my merch store will be in the video description. Alternatively, you can support my channel via Patreon for $1 a month and gain behind-the-scenes access. However, given how difficult times are with COVID-19, I would never suggest pushing yourself financially. If it's not something you can afford, then please look after yourself first. I'll be fine, honestly. Anyhow, I want to relax and play some video games. It's been real fun tackling this crazy conspiracy. See you all in the next one. Bye-bye!